Hello there, and welcome to the first video in the discussive series on Wicca and pagan witchcraft in general. This happens to be the first actual video on the channel, so since you're watching this, welcome. I hope that together we can find some interesting discussions and make some discoveries, or rediscoveries, about why people think the way they do, and perhaps find some common ground with those who have practiced and still practice things that many of us would consider to be evil, dangerous, or perhaps silly and non-existent. So this first video is going to be some basic research for everyone involved. I've done some reading on the history of Wicca, and I'm going to share some major points so that we can all be on the same level when we start going further in. Now, before we go any further, I'd like to make it clear here. In this first video or two, I'll be giving information about the Wiccan religion, but we will not be scrutinizing their beliefs. It is of my firm opinion that to put someone else's religious beliefs under the spotlight is something only done by the lowest kinds of people. Therefore, we will learn about their views, marvel at the potential differences, admire the potential similarities, and then leave them be. We may dig deeper in our own times, but I would ask no one bother any Wiccans that aren't willing to share information, and certainly don't act as if there are any less for their beliefs, either around them or around us learners. So, to start with, Wicca is a modern, recognized pagan religion that was developed in the early part of the 20th century. It's not an organized religion, there's no central point in it. For example, where Catholics will go to churches and there's a pope and priests and things. And in Wicca, one practices it by themselves or with a small group, with no real authoritative figure present save for perhaps someone with a more experience or age. Now, there's many varieties of Wicca due to this decentralized view, but we're going to be looking into what I personally would call the more popular form. At least it's more popular here in the south of the US. I apologize if it's different where you live. Now, in this variation of Wicca, it's a two-deity setup. They worship the god and the goddess. The god is also known as the horn god, and the goddess is also known as the mother goddess. There's many more names, but there's two for each for now. So the horn god is associated with nature, wilderness, sexuality, hunting, and the life cycle. To certain Wiccans, he's also associated with sun, summer, the hunt, and even death. The mother goddess is portrayed as a triadic deity, which means she is comprised of a maiden, a mother, and a crone goddess archetype. She's associated with such things such as virginity, fertility, wisdom, and the moon. After death, the Wiccans kind of vary upon belief, though it seems most believe in some form of reincarnation. This would be reincarnation across multiple species of animal, from human to beasts, but some also believe that humans only reincarnate back into other humans. Generally, though, it seems to be agreed that someone who practices Wicca is the reincarnation of a past Wiccan, or a witch if you go back before Wicca. On the topic of witches, most Wiccans believe in and practice magic, which is the focus of our study. This is where you can start scrutinizing. I'm sure you were very disappointed when I told you not to do that. In this variation of Wicca, most believe magic to be a law of nature rather than a supernatural power. They're of the opinion that science has either as of yet not discovered it in part and labeled the parts as something other than magic, which they're fine with, or science has completely disregarded it and refuses to acknowledge it. That's where we come in. We're going to find the parts of their magic that are actually scientifically proven, and we're going to point them out. And then we're going to test the parts they claim science has ignored or not yet found. But for now, we're going to continue our studies. The next topic is of Wiccan morality. I included this part to put in perspective what kind of Wiccans we're studying. Perhaps you've seen some crazy old lady with a pointy hat casting spells and hexes to ruin your life, but we're looking at a slightly different kind of Wiccan. So, there's no central dogma or creed that Wiccans follow, but there is a saying that I've heard amongst them in my area that say, if it harms none, do what you will. They follow that to the T, basically. They feel that if it harms neither yourself or any external entity in nature, including nature itself, then you're free to do it. Should it harm someone or yourself, it is to be avoided. With that knowledge and further research and a tiny bit of observation, I've seen that this style of Wiccan are entirely peaceful and look only for the betterment of themselves and those closest to them. They're firmly against harming others and believe that any misdeed you do to someone else will come back to you, but 3 times worse. Now, in conclusion, I have a brief summary, followed by some dispelling of popular misconceptions. So, in summary, our form of Wicca is a recognized religion of pagan style, having 2 deities, a male figure and a female figure. There's no central authority, Therefore, this information is not agreed to by all, but is generally accepted as far as I've found. They believe in reincarnation and a resting place of existence before the spirit enters a new body. They practice magic, which they believe to be natural and believe to be part of the natural sciences. They have a moral code similar to do no harm and are a peaceful religion, one without persecution of others, generally. Here are 3 of the most common misconceptions I've heard about Wiccans and why they appear to be false from my observation. 1. Wiccans are Satanists. This isn't true, as you've learned, due to there being no satanic figure in their theology. This idea probably came about due to Wiccans using the pentagram as their symbol and Satanists adopting the upside-down pentagram as theirs. To the untrained eye, they're basically the same thing. 2. Wiccans are witches that cast evil magic. While Wiccans do tend to call themselves witches, they specifically avoid evil magic, believing that to use magic for evil is not only to horribly misuse it, but to endanger yourself. 3. Wiccans are anti-Christians, just like Satanists. There's nothing I found that suggests Wiccans are against any religion or belief. I'm not going to say that Wiccans and Christians believe the same thing, but I'll say there's plenty of other religions that are far more opposed to each other than these two. Alright, that's it for this first video on the overall study of Wicca. If you've encountered people who follow the Wiccan faith near you that differ from these points, I'd love to hear about them in the comments, but keep in mind that simply for the purposes of having a uniform study, we're going to be studying this variation. At least on this channel. You can do your own studies elsewhere, I encourage it. If you have any questions, comments, or findings, feel free to comment below or send me a personal message. Until the next video, I wish you luck on any studies you undertake. Farewell.